All right, welcome to our screencast this evening. This is for parents, by the way. If you're a student watching this, good for you, but you should know how my class is set up. If you're a parent logging in for the first time or checking out to see this, thank you very much for following my Infinite Campus message to you guys to watch this prior to conferences. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how my class is set up so that these aren't questions or answers that I have to give you during conferences. We could spend time discussing your child's academic progress. So thank you again for coming. All right, we're going to start with the idea of blended learning. Now, blended learning is something that as a school, it's a school-wide initiative and as well as a district-wide initiative at Mentor Public Schools. Now, what it is the web definition is, of course, the formal education program in which a student blah, 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 blah. Basically, in terms that, address you guys the most as parents, it's an idea that the students are in control of their learning. That over time students have choice. They have an idea of where they want to learn in my classroom. They can move the furniture, they can move, sit on the ground, they can sit in different desks, but they control their learning, that they're, in control of it. They're independent learners, they're active learners. So it's them, they as a learner in my class, their job is to be active and do what they need to do when they need to do it. That's a pretty easy definition. Hopefully that's a little easier to understand. Again, a Cliff Notes version of blended learning. The idea is to get the kids successful. They need to learn. Gone are the days in schools that it's okay for a child to fail. It's not okay. The kids are responsible to learn and show me that learning during their class days. And if not, we're going to make that up. We're going to have time for them to make that up with me. And they should go back no matter what and be able to get A's or B's by the end of the quarter, no matter what, given the setup. So again, the students are responsible for their learning. They are working at their own pace. We'll get to one of those choice boards or flow charts in a minute. They're making their choices in their learning. So it's not just they walk in and are told what to do in every step of the way. They're being creative in how they want to learn and how they want to show me how they're doing that. They're going to be assessed multiple times throughout the week or throughout the year, basically showing me that they've mastered the material that they need to do. And that assessment may come with quizzes or tests. It could happen with 5-question. They're called common classroom formative assessments. It could be, they made a video. They created a video much like this to show me they mastered the material. That's showing me they learned. And the bottom line is that they need to learn better, is that by doing these steps and learning this way in a blended learning environment, that they are learning better and for a longer term. And I know that in years past, being a history teacher, a huge problem was always parents that would come in and say that their kids are studying at home, but they forget the next day. And that they're very good short-term learners. They're good at learning the material for like 1 hour or 2 hours, but they forget. But learning in a blended learning environment and learning where the student's emphasis is that they are learning on their own with choice and doing what they want to do to learn, then that becomes more long-term learning, where a week or 2 weeks from now, they're able to bring back what they've learned because they did the work. They weren't just doing it for me or for you, the parent. They're doing it for them to learn. All right, a daily class setup in my class, pretty simple. There's two kind of categories. If you are the student in my class, my goal for you is to be an active learner every day. Come in ready to learn, ready to do what you need to do today to get those daily objectives or daily tasks done. So like it says, just kind of going through that list, they're choosing the activities they want to do. They're watching, sometimes it could be watching an online lecture of me like this, taking some notes on that or making sure you learn. Maybe reading from the textbook during a period and then answering some questions about that, or partner reading. We just learned a new way of taking notes called Cornell Notes, which helps with that long-term learning. They may be working on projects. They may also be taking assessments. These are things that could be happening. Maybe one of those is happening during a class period. Maybe multiple things are happening. And those things go on throughout a unit of instruction, which is usually a couple week-long unit, which has built-in chapters in the book. I know it's confusing, but that's okay. Just hopefully you're following along. My responsibility as the teacher for your child is to be the facilitator of learning, or like a learning coach that you could kind of call me. And my job is to provide feedback for your students. When they take small assessments, quizzes, or tests, they need to get that feedback back quickly so I could show them what they haven't done or mastered, and they could learn a different way or relearn it, so I can assess them once again. Same thing with classwork. If they're doing something in class, much like homework, or if they took something home to work on, they're going to be assessed on that so that they can show me they've learned. And if not, again, I need to, like the second bullet point, I need to conduct a small group of instruction when that's needed. So if a group of students, 4 or 5, it could even be one student, haven't mastered a topic in my class, I can show them something else to do, something new to do, or just work with me where I go over that in that traditional kind of lecture style, maybe, if that's what they need, or that's what they need, or that's what they would like. Another thing is that I should help with student choice activities. So when and if the kids are done learning or showing me they're learning, what is it that they want to do to continue their learning? Learning should never end in my class. They should never say they're done. There should always be something new that they can do, new that they could be doing, which could be something simple like watching a movie about what we just went over in class. Rather than showing the whole class, maybe they're not ready for that. A student could just watch the movie The Crossing in the back of my room because they've mastered their information on the Revolutionary War. Another thing is to provide other assessment opportunities. Just quizzing, taking a quiz, for example. Students can take that quiz and just verbally talk to me afterwards to show me they've learned. Doesn't always have to be paper and pencil. Learning happens a lot of different ways. That's up to the student to kind of set up that time with me to show me that they have learned. And again, I'm open to any kind of interpretation on that. The assessment types in my class, they are a lot of times 2 or 3 days. They are 2 or 3 days a week. We have a daily common formative or common classroom formative assessment. These are short 4 or 5 question assessments that are based on the night before or class time before the activity that they did. So maybe they read through a section of the book and had to answer some questions. Well, the next day to start class, they'll take a short 4 or 5 question quiz regarding that information. I immediately will get feedback to see how they did. And if they scored mastery, if it's out of 5 questions, if they scored a 4 or 5 and they've mastered the material, they can move on. They can move on to the next level. And if you look, here's a flow chart that a student gets. This is an example of a unit of instruction. So here are the activities the students will do during the week. And built in are these little stop signs telling the student on this day you'll be taking a common classroom formative assessment regarding that information. It could be a lecture, could be a book assignment, whatever. Now this stop sign tells me that I'm going to check in with them, making sure to move kids around into different groups. So if the kids have done that activity and they mastered it, they move on. They can move on to the next step down. It's kind of like chutes and ladders. Whereas if the student did not master this material, then that's my time to kind of reteach them or go over a new instructional strategy for them to make sure they understand that. And before they're done with me in a small group, they are reassessed again to show that growth. Maybe they scored a 1 out of 5 the first assessment over here, and on the second time at the end of that class period after working with me or with a partner again, maybe they bumped up to a 4 or a 5 out of 5, which is our goal. Our goal is to get them to learn. So that's one type of assessment. Another bigger type is a quiz, a bigger quiz. These happen maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks at the most. And the idea is that I'm, again, checking for understanding. Now, these quizzes are made up of those short cycle 4 or 5 question quiz questions. So I'm not trying to shock them or show them, hey, this question I've never seen before. No, these are questions that they've already seen before or topics that we've covered in class. So these are things that, yes, they've seen before, they've gone over these topics. So the quizzes, nothing shocking for them at all. And the idea is that when they're done with their quiz, there's a makeup day built in every time, every day, snow days or not, that there's a makeup day built in the next day to get their quiz done, or to take their quiz one more time. So based on their score, if they don't have a perfect score, they're all able to re-quiz and I will take their higher score. What you see here is part of the board in my classroom, or part of the board in my classroom, and that shows that they're scheduling, or students are scheduling an appointment to come in and re-quiz another day. So say the students do not have the work completed. So to go back again to this chart, in order to take a re-quiz in my class, the students must do the column of work that I asked them to do. So this column might have taken a student a week of time to work on. Some kids could get that done in 2 days. Some kids it may take all week. But the idea is if you've done these steps for me, you should have learned the material. And if not, I will help you get there. So this column, if you've completed the necessary work, like it says down here, if you've done that necessary work, you can re-quiz the next day. If you haven't gotten that work done, then that re-quiz day is built in for you to complete the work you need to get done. And then when you're done with that makeup work, you can schedule a time anytime. I'm very open as a teacher. You could come in 6th period during their lunchtime. You could come in before school from 8 to 8:30. You just have to write a post-it to me explaining, hey, I want to come in this day, and make sure it's an okay time for me, and I'll meet with you and say, okay. So during lunch, I'll have students coming in to re-quiz, but again, they must show me that they've done the work I've asked them to. So if you've done that work, I will go out of my way, on my own time, in my own free time, to schedule those times for you to come in and take requizzes or get retaught again, or kind of lead you in the right direction to get that information. So those are the two different types of assessments your child will see in my class. Projects are also included in that as well. That's more of a wide-ranging array of different things they could do. Websites for me, websites that my students are available to use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with, of course, internet access. They have available to them their book website, so the my.hrw.com or my.hrw.com. This is their book online website, so they have a book password. Each kid has their own username and password available to them, and now this gives them access to their entire textbook, all their materials. They can answer questions. They have chapter section assessments, and the book will help grade that for them. They also have an audio part. I don't know if you can read it on there, but if you click on audio, or if the student were to click on it, the book will actually read it to them. So I know some of the struggling readers that I have like to do that, and as they read, they have the book read it to them as well. So that helps, bridge that gap between school and home. Or again, you as a parent do not have to understand 8th grade American history for your child to pass. You just have to make sure that they're getting onto these websites to help them out. So that's their book website. Schoology.com is a website that I use that kind of holds everything possible that they'll ever need for my class. And if you look, I give example here for my second period class. It has information for the DC trip. It has the units broken down. Now, if they were to click on a folder, a drop-down menu would come in, and it gives them access to everything, their flow charts, the standards and objectives for the unit. It gives them PowerPoint notes, online lectures, section quizzes. It gives them everything, and also it gives them other choice activities that they can be doing when and if they're done with the minimum of work that I've told them to get done. So say they've completed that flow chart column, they can move on and watch movies that I might have connected. They can link things to themselves. They can ask me questions on Schoology. It's sort of like a Facebook of education. Now, in this case, don't be freaking out that it's about Facebook. It's not. But this locks your student into their own class period. Every student has access to it. They can send me an update. They can send me a direct message that I will get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So this keeps your child in contact with me 7 days a week, 24 hours. So whenever they have a question, or if they're working at home, I get an email saying that, your child has a question, and I can respond to them usually within a few hours, depending on, what's going on with me at home. But again, all the information your child needs is available all the time to them through this Schoology website. They also have Quizlet.com, which they've all been set up with. You can see there's an example from earlier in the year. This is another example where the students can be implementing their own or creating their own username or creating their own flashcards. Again, we are a history class. We are vocabulary heavy. They have to know their vocabulary. So this is a great site that is free to use. They can post their own flashcards. They can make their own flashcards and then review in different ways. There's games they can play with it. There's a test maker that the actual site, Quizlet, will create their own test for them and grade it to show them which vocabulary terms they struggle with or not. Just in my classroom too, besides the access, they are allowed to use their own devices in my class. They can bring their own phones or have their own iPads or whatever to access these websites during my class period. They also have available the old school kind of textbooks, which we have a class set of. I provide them with all the printouts as well. That's available on Quizlet. So during class, they have available all these things. They can ask me for whatever they need during class. In this case, here's a section quiz for them to use and PowerPoint notes from the textbook. So again, the idea that these things are all there for them. It's truly up to your child or up to your student to go out and get that learning, and then use me as a facilitator. What do they need me to do? What do they need to do today and to get to that level of work? So hopefully, again, like I said, hopefully you got something from this presentation. If not, sorry I wasted your time. But again, I applaud you as a parent for clicking on my presentation to watch. If you have any questions regarding my class setup before conferences, please email me at that username or at sthilaire.or@mentorschools.org, and I will usually respond to you within a day. So thank you again for watching. Hopefully you have no questions about my class setup.